Welcome again to another edition of our Yankees podcast, Believe in the Bronx. Pete Caldera here in Manhattan. Mike Stanton, three-time Yankees world champion reliever in his Houston studios. Mike, the Yankees just came off a road trip that can only be labeled as a disaster for the team. They did what they couldn't and shouldn't have done when they went on the road to play the White Sox, the Marlins, and the Braves, which is come home under 500 for the first time this late in the season since 1995. As we do this podcast before they play a series against the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium, the Yankees are 60-61, 14 games off the pace in the American League East. We've said before that ship has sailed for them, and 6.5 games out of a wild card spot that seems like double that at this point, Mike.
Yeah, it's they've been tinkering on this for quite a while, 3-4 games over 500. The real problem they had on that road trip is they ran into the best team in Major League Baseball, and that's the Atlanta Braves. And the Atlanta Braves just throttled them for that series. And it's unfortunate. I mean, this team should be better than this, but it's just one of those things. Injuries have decimated them like it seems like every single year. And still, just the lack of offense has been an ongoing issue for over a year now.
Yeah, you talk about the nightly struggle for runs right now. We've got a quarter of the season left. The Yankees are 10th in the league in runs scored per game, 14th in batting average, 10th in OPS.
Wow.
But last in runners left on base because they just don't get enough on base. It's you saw in stark detail the difference between a World Series contender in the Atlanta Braves and the Yankees. It couldn't have been. They're leagues away at this point, and it's everything the Yankees hoped to be and wanted to be. That relentless lineup, that excellent starting pitching. And it wasn't that, this wasn't Maddox and Glavine out there in their primes, beating them too. And still the Yankees, can't really muster anything. And, you wonder where they go from this point here. I mean, everyone asks about the mood in the clubhouse. What's the mood? You know what? It's kind of numb right now. I mean, yeah, these guys prepare, they're professionals. They go out there to do a job that they're paid to do. But after the games, it's almost like they're reading off distant teleprompters. But what else is there to say other than, we're going to prepare, we're going to come tomorrow, we're going to, live to fight another day, we're going to fight, right, and all this stuff that you'd expect them to say. But there's an emptiness about that because I think deep down you see it, the reality of it, and it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. Now, I was never with a Yankees team that struggled like this. I was with teams that did struggle and had bad seasons. And I can tell you, if you were having fun in the clubhouse right now, then you're in the wrong sport. You're doing something else. You should be miserable because you are paid to win baseball games. And that's what these guys are supposed to do. When you're a team that relies on the home run to score runs and you don't hit any home runs, well, there lies your problem. Just the hit tool has not been there. They've got a couple guys that are having, it still boggles my mind to think how much DJ LeMahieu has struggled. I mean, this is a guy that has always been able to get his base hits to square up the baseball, and it just really hasn't happened that much. What is it? The injuries? Is it age? Whatever it is, it just hasn't happened for DJ and the Yankees. But that's just a microcosm of the whole problem they have offensively. I think that you're talking about a team that really should be better. They have drastically underachieved. What are you going to do? You're going to have to you keep coming to the ballpark. When you're struggling like this, baseball turns into a job.
Yeah. And you mentioned it. I mean, they depended so much on LeMahieu, on Stanton, on Rizzo. And we can talk about what they should be doing now. At this point, you don't know if Rizzo's coming back. You might as well consider him shut down for the season. Why rush him back from concussion symptoms now when this season is dying on the vine? The things that they could do possibly right now, I'd like to see them start promoting. I don't see why Oswald Peraza is not in this lineup. He's one of their better prospects. They've talked him up. They've kept him from being involved in trades in the recent past. Why not promote him now? Play him at third base. Get him some time at second base. Have LeMahieu play first base, and see what you've got with Peraza, because they've never really given him an extended look. They could call up Everson Pereira. They've mentioned one of their better outfield prospects who could be and should be in the mix for a regular job this coming spring training. See what you've got. Give him a little bit of a taste of Major League Baseball right now, and a slight audition. Austin Wells, another guy, their top catching prospect, a real, you talk about the hit tool. This guy has got it. Another guy that they've kept out of trade discussion because they like his upside and his future. So why not take a look at these guys right now?
Well, I think it makes it a little bit tough since you are still in August, the middle of August. You're on the outside looking in. You're below 500. You're 14 games out. You're well out of the wild card also. But you got to remember, this is the New York Yankees. That
right.
there is still a commitment to win baseball games. And the interesting thing is, you said at the beginning of the podcast here, was that this is the first time since 1995 that they have been below 500 at this point in the season. You got to remember, 1995, they end up making the playoffs. They end up getting on a roll, and now that was a vastly different team, but it's happened, and that's what you have to look at. So, is there a glimmer of hope? Well, only if you want to see it, and sometimes you got to look pretty hard. So I think it's still a little bit early to punt. It's really hard to punt in August. I think once you get to September, you get the couple extra roster spots, then maybe you can start shuffling things around and taking a look at if things don't change. But it's a tough situation, because this team came into the season with the utmost of expectations, possible World Series contender, and it's just fallen apart in front of our eyes.
Yeah. I wouldn't exactly say, even if you called up some of these guys, like Peraza, that you're punting here, because you're just not getting any production out of third base, out of left field. These positions. Why not try Peraza there on a full-time basis? Why not start calling up some of these kids? With all due respect to Jake Bowers and Billy McKinney and Isaiah Kanafalefa, they weren't supposed to have this many at-bats, going into August. They were supposed to be complementary players. They were supposed to be bench players, role players, maybe even in the case of, some of these guys, not even on this roster. They're here because of injuries and other circumstances. You look back to 2016 when they did, blow it up at the trade deadline and trade Miller and Chapman. They actually started to play better when they brought up the kids. It was led by Gary Sanchez, but at that time you had a young up and coming Aaron Judge, you had Tyler Austin, you had Greg Bird. Some of those guys didn't pan out, obviously, but there was an energy to that team that you didn't see earlier in the year, and a lot of that was because the kids were up and producing.
Well, it's a valid point, because one thing that kids coming up to Major League Baseball, what it does do, it does bring energy. There's no doubt about it. And for a team that has been, kind of struggling for quite a while now, maybe that is the boost that they need to kind of bring some, young blood in there, get some energy going, and win a few baseball games. But it's a valid point to say that, there are positions like third base that they're not getting production. So maybe you can bring a young guy up. Maybe he does bring some energy, and maybe he does bring some more production. But at some point, even the New York Yankees, who is, the way this team is designed every single year is to be a contender. In this situation, sometimes you got to figure out who you have at the minor league level. And maybe this is, at least not now, maybe in a couple of weeks, it is time to start seeing if these guys are, viable Major League Baseball players.
Yeah. The other changes they could possibly make in the immediate right here are some alterations to their rotation. it just hasn't worked out for Luis Severino for whatever reason right now. In any other circumstance, he'd be out of this rotation, except for the injury situation that they have now. They're going to get Carlos Rodon back. He's on track to come back into the rotation on August 22nd against the Nationals. So you'll have one of your guys back. But Michael King is an interesting case because he wants to be a starter. They are building him up more and more now. He's had opportunities as an opener now, and there's an opportunity now to stretch him out even longer. I mean, not to probably 6 or 7 innings, but to the point where you stretch him out and you see what you have here, and possibly he's in your rotation mix next year in spring training, depending on whatever changes they make, whatever young arms they want to see come up, whatever injuries will come down the pike. But I think Michael King is making a very interesting case to step in and be in that rotation picture sooner than later. Just curious what you think about that.
No, it makes sense. I mean, this is the time that you can try new things. And, does Michael King get to make the call that he's a starting pitcher? No, he can make suggestions. It's still up to the organization to decide whether it's time. But yeah, why not? You're stretching him out. Go ahead, let him get his, give him a couple more outings, get his pitch count up a little bit more, give him his 3 or 4 innings at the beginning of the game, and just see what it looks like. Because there's sometimes you go out there and you go, okay, yeah, this, even though he's getting guys out, it just doesn't, some of it is the vibe that you get in your gut. Maybe it doesn't. Or he goes out there and even if he doesn't pitch well, you go, you know what though? We're seeing, I like what we're seeing. I like how he's working hitters. I like the idea that he's got the stuff to could possibly go through a lineup 2 or 3 times. And so it's not always about just the results, but, there's some other things. You talked about Rizzo a little earlier, and Anthony, maybe you look at him and I don't think you rush him back. But if he's ready to go, it would benefit next year for him to get some at bats. Same thing with Carlos Rodon. You want to get him some innings this year, just simply because, if he is completely healthy next year, does that mean he's got to be on some kind of limit, innings limit, just simply because he didn't pitch that much this year? So, there's some things that you're going to be able to do that if you were in a pennant chase, that you wouldn't be able to do. And I think that's just looking at the situations and trying to make the lemons out of the lemonade, or the lemonade out of the lemons. Got it backwards. Yeah,
they'll sell for anything right now. You mentioned Judge too earlier. He's still playing on that compromised toe,
right?
And he's going to be out there as long as they're mathematically have a chance to make the playoffs, as he should. And Aaron Boone mentioned earlier this week that he hasn't been told that surgery is on the table. Although I would think it still has to be an option at this point down the road. I mean, not to play amateur physician here, but you've mentioned before, the torn ligament there. That I don't think you could dismiss a surgical option at some point in the off season, and then. Maybe, if this thing gets, worse for the Yankees, do you come to the point where you say to Aaron Judge, you want to, take a break here because I don't know if he could be doing any more damage to that toe than otherwise if he wasn't playing. But I guess it's something to look out down the road, not for the coming weeks here, but as they get into
my view on this is you have to actually look at this backwards. Let's say he does, and we're speculating, so we're talking in generalities here. Let's say he does have to have surgery. Off season, especially when your rehab goes very, very quickly. And, if you can save a couple of weeks on the front end by having the surgery a little bit earlier, then on the back end, when you're trying to get ready for spring training, you're trying to get ready for the 2024 season, that can mean a lot. So I think that's something you have to consider, whether surgery or not. There's something's got to be done, and he's got to, he's going to have to at least be off of his feet or put a boot on or whatever it is to try and get that toe to heal up completely. off seasons go quickly. It's only a few months, and especially if he does have surgery. I mean, you have surgery, you're not doing anything for a couple weeks after the surgery. Now you're a month or month and a half in. Now you're trying to get the strength and mobility back a little bit, but it's just one of those things that you gotta really look at the schedule, look at the calendar, and kind of go backwards from spring training, from the season into the off season.
Right. Just to end on a more of an upbeat note, September 9th, Old Timers Day at Yankee Stadium. You'll be there to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the 1998 World Champions. And so will the captain, Derek Jeter, has agreed to come to his first Old Timers Day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Who cares about him? I'm going to be there. That's more important.
Well, what a pitching reunion. In fact, I was talking to Andy Pettit. He was in Atlanta about Jeter. I said, you think he's going to go the DiMaggio route and show up in a suit? And I think Andy suggested that if that was even a possibility, that they would pressure him to get into a uniform. So
sure. He's got to put on the number 2. He's got to put on the pinstripes, and I would think he would want to. I mean, he's done the business side of baseball, and it was hot and cold him doing that. But just to be able, what I'm looking forward to is just getting back in uniform. I haven't been, even slightly competitive on a baseball field since I retired. So, this is going to be something that I really, really am looking forward to. And I would think that Derek is also. What has Derek always been? First and foremost, he's been a baseball player. He wants to be on the field. Right.
Exactly. What do you feel about now? There's no game though this year, so you don't get a chance to.
I did not hear that. There's
no game. So I don't know if you've probably been throwing every day though.
I coach, so yes, I throw. The funny thing is, I throw probably 20 times more now than I did when I was playing. Now, not as hard, not as purposeful, but I still do a lot of throwing. But no, that's the first time I've heard that there's no game. They haven't informed me of that.
Maybe we can have a pickup game in McCombs Dam Park before the ceremonies. And
it.
Yeah, come back out there. Well, until then, we've got a lot more Yankee baseball ahead, and of course more podcasts. So we thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Adios.